The Canik Prime is a hell of a gun for a hell of a price. The Prime Radian runs about $250 more than the vanilla Prime, so the obvious questions write themselves. Does it shoot better? Does it feel like a $250 upgrade? And does Canik still have a value story at this price point? We'll answer all of that right now. So real quickly, if you're new here, I'm David. I'm happy you're here. And if at any point you find value in this, consider subscribing. But let's set the stage with the Vanilla Prime. Now, it was the belle of the ball at SHOT Show in 2025, representing Canik's new slimline offering that was the debut of their US manufacturing facility in West Palm Beach, Florida. It shipped with tritium night sights, an ambi feature set, and most importantly, it had a 3-port comp milled straight into the barrel. The marketing claim with this gun was that it was the softest shooting in this category, and they may very well have been right. So taking something that was already very good, tacking on Radian parts and raising the price $250, is this a step forward? Or is it just different? So here's what changed. First, the most obvious thing that changed is the Radian Ramjet and Afterburner barrel set. That is a barrel and compensator from Radian. If you're not familiar with those systems, it's a barrel that is the full length, but then has 2 large holes put in the top of it. There is a shroud that bolts onto it through the use of a bolt that has a lug into the barrel right there. So it's not threaded onto the barrel. I'm told it's 50 state legal. I am not a lawyer and I don't care to learn all of the state's gun laws, but it creates a much larger expansion chamber than your typical chunk port style ports that you see like on the original Prime. But that's not the only thing that changed. It's just the most obvious. They also have the Radian backstrap and magwell on there. This is an aluminum backstrap that kind of changes the geometry of the grip and then allows there to be a flared magwell, which is honestly a nice addition. The backstrap makes a pretty good difference in how the gun shoots. It just feels in hand. It just feels like its anchor's better. Whereas the old Vanilla Prime has a polymer backstrap with a longer magwell that the magazines kind of go flush with. So you're keeping roughly the same length in the gun, but at the same time, you're getting a little bit more flare at the bottom. Other than that, the color is a little bit different. This is like a gray black, whereas this is like a black black. That's really it. For a deeper dive in what the original Vanilla Prime is, you can check out my video at SHOT Show and my full review of the gun. I'll put links down in the description. A quick note on the optic system. They actually shipped with this Canik Onyx C, which I guess is Canik rebranding their optic lineup from Canik or Mechanic into just Canik. And it seemed like a decent little RMSC style optic, but for whatever reason, I had to adjust it all the way to the right and it still was shooting a little bit left. So I ended up pulling the optic and putting on the Lux Tactical Sky Warrior, which is an enclosed emitter optic. And it's got a multi-reticle system. I met the guys at Lux Tactical at IDPA National, seemed like cool dudes. So thank them for letting me check out their optics. During filming, I made do with the Onyx, and honestly, it was okay, but you know, now I've got the Sky Warrior on there, so just so you know. But the optics change, the reason to bring it up, revealed something to me that this is not a traditional RMSC cut. It actually doesn't have any recoil bosses. It has those little sleeves that go up into the optic screw holes in the optic body, and then you use thinner diameter screws to get those optics to stay on there. So far it seems okay, but you won't be able to use the screws that come with your optic if you don't get one that's optic mounted from the factory. Since the gun came mounted with an optic, I'm sure Canik gives you the screws you need to mount optics on it because they're usually really great at doing all that, but I don't know because, you know, this came from Canik USA. There's your disclosure, but I can't confirm because it came with the Onyx mounted. Let's talk a little bit about that magwell. The magwell is, as I mentioned, an improvement in how the gun sits in your hand. I actually prefer the way the gun sits in the hand with that little bit of hump on it. It just adds a little bit of girth to a gun that, in my opinion, is, you know, a little bit small, and I've got big mitts, so it actually is a welcome addition to the gun. It makes it feel like I've got a better home for my support hand on the pistol. However, because it is a concealed carry gun, the magwell is, you know, it does add some thickness, so it is going to add some printing, which is kind of counter the mission of a slimline concealed carry type gun. But if you let me pick between the two, I actually do prefer the Radian backstrap quite a bit. I chronoed 5 off-the-shelf loads through the Ramjet and Afterburner to get you some velocities. What you're seeing on the screen here is through an app I'm developing called Carbon Buildup. It'll be released first on iPhone, and we're starting open beta soon, but there's some velocities for some ammo.
They shoot pretty similarly. The obviously ported gun is a little bit louder. I can say that the aluminum backstrap is much appreciated on the Radian version of the gun. It is a nicer feeling backstrap. It feels a little bit more ergonomic. And other than that, I mean, I'll let slow motion do the talking. I feel like there's more pop in the slide on the ported gun, but neither one is bad. They're both good.
Looking at the guns go in slow motion, it does appear that the Ramjet Afterburner does pull more energy off the slide, which is consistent with what I experienced behind the gun on the range. Prime Radian is a touch softer shooting than the vanilla Prime. Is that difference going to be exploitable on a carry gun? Probably not. Is it nothing? No, it actually is something, because they actually changed the recoil spring that's offered on the Prime Radian. So it looks like there is a slightly lighter weight spring on the Radian Prime versus the vanilla Prime. Now, just racking it like I just did, I can't really feel a difference, but very clearly there is a different gauge spring being used with different coil spacing. So it's a different spring. If you didn't have either gun and I gave you the choice between the two, you'd probably prefer the Prime Radian. But if you had a vanilla Prime, would you sell this and go buy one of these? I would say probably not. Bottom line, between the two, I absolutely prefer the Prime Radian over the vanilla Prime. Both are excellent guns. It is a diminishing returns type difference, but I would say that this is the nicer shooting, nicer feeling gun in hand. But does it hold up to a $900 price tag? Is it still delivering good value? That's an interesting question, because the Prime Radian has competition in both kind of the $600 price point, and that's going to come from like the Hellcat Pro Comp, the Shield X Pro Comp, whatever they call it at Smith & Wesson. The Hellcat RDP, all of those are around $600, but none of those actually feature a true compensator the way that the Prime does, except for perhaps the RDP, which is actually discontinued. Getting up closer to that $900 price point is going to be the Sig Sauer P365 X Macro Comp. Holy cow, does that take a long time to say? I swear, like the dudes at Sig, they name guns like if you could say it in less than 5 seconds, it doesn't count. But the X Macro Comp uses a slide integrated expansion chamber, or slide comp, and what that is a shorter barrel in a longer slide with holes cut in the top. So it kind of functions about like a chunk port, but is that difference exploitable? Again, it's going to depend on the shooter. So the Prime Radian is the first gun to feature a true compensator in that price point. But is it a value at that $900 price point? Well, the Ramjet Afterburner barrel set sells for nearly $400 when you pay full price. They go on sale sometimes, but even still, it's hundreds of dollars part you'd be bolting onto a gun if you didn't get it installed from the factory. And Canik has always given you a heck of a value as far as like the boxes they come in, and the holsters that they're shipping with the guns. This is the holster that comes with the Prime Radian, and it's actually a decent holster. You could absolutely use this. The plastic is a little bit thin, and it is an ambi holster, so it's not as comfortable as it could be, but it's way better than the holsters that Canik used to come with. Like, this is actually a decent usable holster. And the magazines it comes with only sell for about 30 bucks. So this day and age, a $30 magazine's an okay price. It's not, you know, a $20 one, which is like the best, but 30 bucks isn't too bad. But that does bring us to kind of the negatives with the pistol, because a $900 pistol kind of has an identity crisis. And the reason I say that is because I've read enough of the y'all's comments to know a lot of you guys feel this way. A lot of people don't want to carry super expensive guns in case they ever use it in defensive gun use. It's going to wind up in a evidence locker at the police station. So they'd rather lose like a $400 gun than a $600 or $900 gun. Vanilla Prime was already kind of pushing the limits of that at $650. And the Prime Radian just elevates it to a lot. So that's going to be one issue. The other side, and this is true on all ported or compensated guns, is a ported or compensated gun used in a confined space like an indoor shooting range or a car or a hallway. It's going to make a lot of noise, return a lot of noise to the shooter. I understand the tough guys will be like, yeah, guns are loud, but these guns are a lot louder for the shooter than a traditional gun where all of the noise is going downrange out of the barrel rather than, you know, going up and reflecting off the ceiling coming back to you. So it is going to be a louder experience. I'll say that the Radian Prime Radian is not as loud as the traditional Prime, but it's still pretty loud for the shooter. The magwell, as mentioned, is going to make the gun print a little bit more than the vanilla Prime would, and it's like a performance carry gun. This is kind of like a slightly skinnier Glock 19 sized pistol. It's actually got a longer grip than a Glock 19, but at the same time, It has a lot of like big gun performance that you can do like cool guy stuff with. And some people are going to say that these guns are really only meant to be shot like 10 yards or in because that's what a carry gun is for. That's not necessarily the philosophy I share on it. I carry a full-size 2011 Commander because I want like full-size gun capability. If I've got to use a gun at all, I want to be able to use it at any distance regardless of how cartoonish it is. So everyone's philosophy is going to be different on what a carry gun is. I could absolutely carry a gun this size and be super happy with it because it's not too heavy, it's not too big, but it does provide a full grip on the gun and offers you some performance shooting stuff. Like, I'm legitimately curious how your thoughts are on a gun that is set up like this. Does this make sense for you as a concealed carry gun, or is it, you know, just kind of like a cool guy Instagram thing? I think it's a cool gun, but I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are. Sound off in the comments. If you want to know more about the Vanilla Prime, you can check out the video I did on it a while ago here.